What's up guys, Joel from JFP Automotive. Here's a video where we show you how to do the VR transmission swap into the VQ chassis. So this transmission is out of the newer Q50 that has the twin turbo VR30 engine in it. We're going to show you how we take this transmission, switch it into the Q50, the older Q50 platform and the G37 platform. This is an all-wheel drive platform as well, so we're going to show you how we switch the extension housings over and switch the transfer case over. Show you how we modify the drive shafts, how we modify the transmission mount, and show you how we take the TCM out of the old VQ transmission and put it into the newer VR transmission. So sit tight, this video is a step-by-step, first-person shot of how I do this swap so that you can know to do it for yourself, or if you want, have us do it and send your car down. So check this out. You can see the two we're talking about. So we have to switch the tailstock. This is like the intermediate housing. There's the transfer case from the VQ. Yeah, because this bolt pattern is completely different between the transfer case on the VR and the VQ. And the VR is a longer transmission. So I did some quick measurements. They take up the difference in length of the two transmissions in this intermediate section. This is actually 3/4 inch shorter than this one. So that's why when we take the all-wheel drive tailstock off the VQ tranny and move it over to the VR, we're still going to have to shorten the rear drive shaft and add a spacer into the front drive shaft. So we're going to go ahead and switch the tailstock housings over. Probably get this up on this pan here. So we go. Oh yeah. Oh, where's my little knee pad? There's our parking Pawl. Do. Oh, it's my cousin.
Nice thing about this is you can actually log where you take things apart.
That's true. Huh. Well then, I don't like that. Pete's sakes, come on, Pete. Have to deal with this off the. This is VQ Pawl.
For the VQ versus VR?
The which?
You need
Another
another vid?
vid.
Vid.
Oh, no. No, they're all going to go back on. I'm just keeping it organized while it's here in front of me.
That's what I mean. You need another vid. Keep one on one side of the camera.
Nope. This thing's still recording? Okay, when you take all these bolts out, they are all the same length as well, so you don't need to worry about where they come out. Just where this bracket goes right there.
Drippy, drippy.
Okay, so we will compare the tailstocks. You'll have to replace this paper gasket though. Most likely will tear. And the gasket is also a thickness to it, so you can't just take this gasket off and put RTV silicone on it, because you'll actually lose the thickness of this gasket and you'll put too much stress on this thrust bearing here, which rides on this surface. So there's your shim. That will ride on there. Aside from that, all of these components appear to be the same. This is your parking Pawl. And that spring flipped off there. The spring is still on this one though. So this holds that parking Pawl down. That activates when you go into park. Pushes this up, pushes that into there. And that is your Pawl. And when you take it out of park, that drops down, and then you're out of park. So dimensionally, these transmissions look to be the exact same in here. I'm gonna get a micrometer out, and we're gonna measure these just to make sure these mating surfaces are the same. So when we do swap over the tailstock, we're not gonna run into any issues. And there you can see the differences in them there, if you can pick that up on the camera. Now, as far as the mounts go, we'll find out where this sits in the car, but that's sitting there. Moving this over, this is going to now be back here. We're going to have to modify this mount, probably by elongating these holes, or we'll find out the best way, because these have little rubber bushings in them for the all-wheel drive ones, not like the rear-wheel drive ones where they're just bolted right to the floor. So once we get this in, we'll show you how we're going to modify this to fit in the car, now that it's going to stick back about a 3/4 inch. And now that we got the back off, we'll measure this up, make sure that's good, and then we'll show you how we do the valve body. Pete, I forgot to get a gasket. There you go. All right, where the heck is that leaking fluid all? Oh, that's fun. All right. I'm going to drain this. Somebody didn't drain the transmission when they took this out. Oh yeah. I'll have to yell at Craig later not taking the tranny fluid out of it. There's the car that this tranny's going into. All ready to receive it when we're done. want to check my dimensions while it's draining. The same. So mental note, don't let this slide out. This one has slid out and now I can't get it back. Okay. So I'm going to take this tailstock and just set it on so that this shaft doesn't fall out, because it is loose in there. As you can see on this one, it just slides out, and you don't want it sliding out because then you have a pain in the ass trying to get it back in. So we're going to keep this locked in so it doesn't move. We'll switch over our parking pawl. There we go. Now we are getting a new gasket for this. I know it's torn. We're just using this to hold it so that nothing falls apart. Here we go. To make sure that that turns. And we'll check this with a dial indicator to make sure that that is the right amount of thrust play that we want once this is together. That was fun.
Did you just dig the saw?
Say what?
Did you just dig the tail saw?
No, it's falling to the ground. It caught it. It's fine. All right, I'm gonna get this one on the engine stand. Come on. The one that I need to take the brain out of. You wanna give me a hand, push that on?
Yep.
Okie dokie, Smokey. Now looking at the front, you'll notice that the crank sensor is in a different location. This is the VR is up top in between these bolts. The VQ is down here, so we'll measure this. We're going to drill that out, and I'll show you how I drill that hole out so we can use the crank sensor. And as far as bolts go at the front, you won't reuse this one. As you can see, it's in a different spot from the starter. These two bolts we will drill out of the oil pan, and then I run a 8x125 bolt and nut through them to pinch them at the bottom, and then this one is in the same spot. All the other bolts line up. Just got to modify these two to make them work and then put another bolt in there. As you can see on the front, this bell housing is smaller than this bell housing because this torque converter is actually bigger. The VR torque converter has more vanes in it, it's bigger, it's more robust. Again, this is why people do this swap. But as you can see, there's your difference. So this is part of the length that's going to take up by shortening the drive shaft, why this transmission is longer. Okay, now side. And I'll reach those. Quite. Oh, where the heck did the nut just go off at? It's right there. Alrighty. Alright, now we're going to take the brain out of the VQ one, because all we need out of this transmission is the TCM. I'll show you how to do this. I'll flip this. I need a bolt. Lock this in. This is probably going to make a mess everywhere. Yep.
It's actually okay. It's content for everything.
Good. Okay. Now with the filter, some of these are long, some of these are short. So the only these are the same. These ones are different. Even though they're marked the same on the head, these are different. This one's a short one. This one's a long one. So anywhere you see these long ones, which are pretty much across the front edge, those are ones that are actually holding the valve body assembly on. These ones are just holding it together. And then there's the short little one. Okay, now the only bolts that are actually holding this whole valve body on will be these ones across the edge here. We already took the ones out here that go all the way through the valve body and into the case. These two, and these four across the back. The rest you don't need to touch, because if you take all those bolts apart, this whole valve body will have a little come apart party. So just leave the rest. We're only going to take the ones off that are holding this to the case itself. As you can see, that one goes through and in. That one is a valve body bolt. Those ones no, that one no. You can see underneath where it doesn't go through all the way. That one, that one. And don't worry if you do get these bolts mixed up, because I'll show you why. So you take a bolt out that doesn't hold the valve body on. These are different lengths. When you put the bolt back in it, you can see that bolt obviously doesn't work there, and that one doesn't grab any threads. So if you did ever mix them up, just know they all need to sit about the same height, like that when you go to tighten them down. Ow. Even these ones are different lengths, so just, that's not very much of a difference though. So be mindful of that. The ones with the B go with the bracket, easy to remember. Just unplug that, that's for the speed sensor at the back of the transmission. The A ones go on the front corner, here and here, and an A1 at the back in the middle. And the rest of these are 7s. Which even these 3 are all different lengths. So you can see the slight difference in height here. So you have the 2 longest ones will go there, and you have the short one on this front corner, which actually looks like it is a valve body bolt that holds it in. Keep those 3 together. Another thing is this will slide out too, so you just have to be mindful. Watch this manual spool valve while you're pulling this out. Oh, and the harness, pull this pin out. And now that will come through. May need to persuade it. If it doesn't, because of rust and corrosion, you can just reach in there and unplug it. And there's the valve body. Again, just watch this spool valve because this turns, and you'll need to make sure you slide that back into the shift linkage. This is the part we want here, the computer. So when we switch all these, we're going to be using all of the valves, or all the solenoids from that transmission. They will all unclip and clip right into this TCM. So you get to use all the components from that transmission. The only thing we're swapping over is the brain. lay these out as they come out, just in case, so I don't get them screwed up. So these ones are all the same length. Oh no, they're not. Where's this a, oh no, that's a solenoid bolt. And there's one 10 mil. Oh, one more there. And there's the transmission control module. So we'll set this off to the side. I'll put this over here. It's clean. All right, now I'm going to place this back in here because we don't need this anymore. Actually, I'll leave it out and we can do some comparisons if we'd like. I'll flip this over.
Does that have to block right now?
Yep.
Let's stop all these.
Alrighty. Forklift's right here, might as well use it. Wrong one. Oh, gas was already off. Sweet. Alrighty. Where did that bolt go? Alrighty. Oh, they only put half the bolts back in this pan. Pete's sakes. Why would they do that? You buy a used transmission. I guess they just expect you're going to take all the bolts out of the old one. Which means they probably took, they took the filter out of this, I betcha.
Is it worth money?
No, they take the filters out so that way you have to change. Oh no, they left it in. I think I might be able to leave the... Try leaving the valve body on this thing. Where's the... So look on this. Only bolts holding this whole thing on are across the top. Right there. This one. Not that one. Not that one. These two. That should be it. It's actually very minimal. Is actually holding this on. Oh, the two bracket bolts. I'm gonna lay this out like this. This one. This one. Oh, that's a bolt hole. There we go. Unplug this. That's nice and clean. Keep these ones. So something I've noticed on these solenoids, that they are the same, and the first two digits correspond to the year that these have come out of. So this is out of a 2018, and the first number is 18. The car that this is going into is a 2010. Every single one I've done of these, that corresponds to the year of the vehicle that it's going in. So if you're unsure of the year of the transmission that you have, you can always tell by the first number on those solenoids. We're going to keep these solenoids with this valve body. And the spool valve, we do have to watch that. Perfect. So there is the TCM from the VR. And now we're going to take the VQ, this TCM, and now put it in there. And when you do this, watch the spool valve, make sure that it slides into that properly. You miss that, the computer won't know what gear you're in.
Alright, don't forget the solenoid pack covers. And then that's it. Flip this over. Make sure that spool valve goes onto the manual rod. Everything else lines up. Now see, on this one we didn't have to take the filter off. We just took the bolts across the outside that are actually holding the valve body on, and everything can stay together. There we go. Switch this over. This in. Aha. It would seem they have taken our pan gasket, Peter. So they're a bunch of wiener heads. I have no idea. And the VR, or the VQ pan is different than the VR, I believe. Oh no, look at that, it is the same. Oh no, it's stuck to the pan. We can cut that part out. Oh! Oh yeah. I like that. That's pretty. And don't forget to swap over these O2 sensor brackets. You don't have those on your VR. And there you have it. Now you can bolt on the transfer case. You got to replace that gasket still. And fill the transmission up while it's out of the car. Because that is the fill plug that you have to fill from the bottom. You have to push fluid into the pan. So it's, while you got this out, flip this over. And there's the factory dipstick tube, if it had a dipstick. Fill it through that hole. That way you don't have to worry about filling this thing when it's in the car. Okay, so this is not the VR transmission, but I'm just going to show you guys how we move the crank sensor location, because in the VR the crank sensor is in a different spot. this is where the factory VQ sensor will be. So on your VR Trans, you need to create this opening here for your crank sensor. I'm going to show you on this side how I do it. It's super easy. I use a step bit. If you don't have one, you can get one at the store. This just makes it super easy. This is pretty much the exact same size as that crank sensor hole needs to be. So what I do is I just measure how far away this needs to be on my old transmission, and then I'll take this information and move it over to the VR transmission. So I'm just going to show you on this one what I do. So the hole is about 1 inch. I'm going to measure 1 inch here. It doesn't need to be like bang on exact, because the mounting for the crank sensor will be on the engine, not on the transmission. This just needs to be an opening. Now I have had it in cases where the opening hasn't been big enough and it's actually bumped up against the crank sensor and caused drivability issues. So make sure you get this hole perfect and go a little bit bigger than if you need to, just for safety's sake. So if you notice on the front, there's actually 2 walls. So there's an inner wall and an outer wall. So what we'll do is we'll go from the front side to finish the first one, and then we'll take the torque converter out, go from the inside to drill finish from the second side. As you can see, the hole is pretty much perfect. I use the step bit just to move in and out to move the lines out so you don't have those little corners. Torque converter comes out. Again, go from the back side, and then you have your perfect hole for your crank sensor. And we'll just take this out and we can show the finished product. Super clean cut, right? Perfect. So for the front drive shaft, we just extended it. And then the rear drive shaft, we put in a one-piece drive shaft. We just went away from the traditional two-piece, and rather than shortening it, we just went with a one piece. For the transmission mount, there are offset holes. So you have these holes here, which are if the car has a different transmission in it. So what we do is you straddle the left side on the rear holes, the right side on the front holes, and then just elongate these 2 holes here so that the mount can twist in it and it doesn't load it up. And that's about it for the mounting and the drive shafts.